Hello everybody, Ram Dean with you here in our downtown studios. This is Fight News Now Extra, our take on what is happening in the mixed martial arts realm. My good friend Robin Black will join me in a bit to discuss some of the sport's most important topics. In the news today, the main event of UFC 177 ends with a bang. ONE FC has a new welterweight champion, and Shinya Aoki cruises past a UFC veteran in the main event of that very same card. Those are some of our talking points today. Now we get to the news. Team Alpha Male standout TJ Dillashaw successfully defended his bantamweight title on Saturday night at UFC 177 when he squared off with last-minute replacement Joe Soto. Former champion Renan Barão was not medically cleared to compete after he fainted and hit his head before the weigh-in. Dillashaw dispatched Bellator veteran Joe Soto in round 5, landing a head kick that almost rendered the title challenger unconscious. The victory marks the 7th in his past 8, and the UFC is considering a rematch with Rafael Assunção. ONE FC Reign of Champions went down live right here on FN on Friday and featured 3 title fights, including the welterweight showdown between Japanese KO artist Nobutatsu Suzuki and former Bellator champion Ben Askren. The American wasted little time forcing the fight to the mat before unleashing a furious attack from the top that garnered the stoppage before the end of the first. Funky captured the 170-pound title in a sensational form that even UFC President Dana White expressed interest. In the main event of the ONE FC card, which emanated from Dubai, top-rated submission fighter Shinya Aoki put his 155-pound title on the line to take on WEC and UFC veteran Kamal Shalorus. Aoki had no problem getting the fight to the ground before working his superior BJJ skills. The 31-year-old earned the 24th submission win of his 43-fight career. Now joined by Mr. Robin Black, TJ Dillashaw gets it done at UFC 177, taking out Joe Soto in round number 5. Strange scenario for the UFC. Renan Barão, he says there was no issue with the weight cut. Unfortunately, he fainted before the weigh-in, hits his head. He can't compete. Joe Rogan kind of pointing the fingers because of the whole weight cutting issue. What do you make of this? Is this should the blame be put on Renan Barão and his methods for cutting weight, or should the blame be put on the UFC for not having a strong card from top to bottom? When the main event falls apart, you got to look to the undercard, and that didn't deliver either.
Yeah, well, both really get it. I mean, for one, your job as a professional is to make weight. This has been combat sports for all time. The fact that some people cut an excessive amount of weight, the fact that some people are trying to stack the deck to be larger on fight night, that's a risk you, the fighter, take. You have to make weight. It is your #1 priority, your #1 responsibility before the fight. He didn't do that. The blame goes on him. And yes, guys, oh, my diet was off. Oh, I had the wrong scale. We've heard it all. Yeah. We've worked and commentated fights at the low and mid levels of MMA, and there is an excuse every time. But no matter what the reason is, no matter what happened, no matter if somebody slipped salt in your water, what happened, it's your responsibility. So that's on him. But the fact that you don't have a big card to kind of fill it out, that's on the UFC.
Got to give props to Joe Soto taking this fight on less than short notice to take on one of the best guys in the world right now. You know, the last thing I'm sure on his mind was that he was going to be facing off with TJ Dillashaw for the bantamweight title, or is that in the back of his mind? You know, it's like, oh, I weigh 135 pounds. If something happens, I'm on the undercard. They need somebody. I'm the guy.
Well, in theory, every top 20, 30, 40 guy, or most of them anyways, are in the gym preparing for the champion. Yes, you got this guy coming up this weekend. You got to face Joseph Benavidez or whoever. You're facing, you know, Tito Ortiz, whatever you're fighting. But in the back of your mind, whatever weight division you're in, you're thinking about this guy. How would I measure up? How would I measure up against his skills? It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and Soto had been a 5-round champion before, so he knows the game, so it was a cool setup. You know, this is one of the reasons why we want to make sure that people learn about the actual pure sport itself, because this fight became very, very interesting the moment that a champion was preparing for one specific man and on less than 24 hours notice or 26 hours notice had the assignment of fighting a different man. That's a really interesting thing from a pure sport perspective.
Now, when you look at the fight, TJ Dillashaw took him 5 rounds to take out Soto. What happens if it was Renan Barão in Soto's place? Do you think that he had a better opportunity in this second fight of recapturing the title? We heard what Renan Barão said. It was the early punches that hurt him. He couldn't recover. Do you expect if he was in there on Saturday night, we would have a new champion?
No. In the old days, when you would see Matt Hughes fight, Matt Hughes could be fighting George St. Pierre or BJ Penn or whoever. You get the same Matt Hughes. He's great at these certain things. He's explosive in these certain ways. He's got that killer double. You get Matt Hughes. But with a guy like TJ Dillashaw, the guy that we got on Saturday night was very different than the guy who would have fought Renan Barão. The TJ Dillashaw preparing for Renan Barão had certain sequences and plans built. The modern champion had certain sequences and plans built around exploiting weaknesses that they perceived Barão had. When on the last minute he had to fight another man, he literally didn't use those because they may not have been applicable. So what he did was go to his best stuff. He went to the things that work. Oh, you went like this to here? That's what you use in the gym. That's what always works when the new guys come in. That's what you go to. And it worked. The downside is it gave other 135-pound guys and their coaches insight into what some of TJ Dillashaw's best instincts are. And that's a tough assignment for a guy on one night's notice to go in and show your whole favorites, show your collection of favorites, and that will help other guys in the future.
The UFC says they don't know if Renan Barão is the next guy to be facing off with TJ Dillashaw. They've talked about Rafael Assunção, who over the last number of fights, he has a victory over TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw 7-1 in his past 8 fights. That lone blemish coming from the Brazilian. It would be an interesting rematch for TJ Dillashaw. But I think you also have to take a look at that fight between Mizugaki and Dominic Cruz. What happens from the outcome of that? Is Dominic Cruz, does he emerge victorious? That would make for a very interesting fight. The former bantamweight champion versus the new guy. The new guy bases his foot movement and his attack on the old guy.
Yeah. If Dominic Cruz comes out and he is a genius, he comes back in after years and is the genius that we believe he can be, he's fighting him for the title. If he comes out and he looks pretty good, you know, but he needs some work, no way, Assunção's in.
Ben Askren kicks some ass. The UFC says, win a couple more fights and you could be fighting for the world's biggest mixed martial arts promotion. That is it for us. Don't go anywhere. More Fight News Now Extra is still coming at you.